Duly noted, 5/6/2014. Hi, I'm Dr. Kathy Dooley. I'm here with the amazing NKT Level 1 study group. Say hello, everybody.
Hi.
Yes. We were just talking about the proper coaching for hip flexor stretching. And what I see in a lot of hip flexor stretching is a lot of this exacerbated, uncontrolled pelvis, and people riding on the wide ligament of Bigelow, trying to stretch out the strongest ligament in the entire body. And they're not really doing much to actually open up the hip. So the first thing you want to do when you're coaching a hip flexor stretch, an iliacus stretch, is to get this into a 90-degree position here, this front leg, to where it's 90 degrees of knee flexion and 90 degrees hip flexion. The knee that's down is going to bear the majority of the weight, right? So what you're going to do is just kind of pick up each foot to make sure most of your weight's on the knee that's down. The pelvis has to be neutral. That's the most important part because we're trying to keep one point stable and move through the hip. So if you're letting the pelvis just kind of move freely, you're not getting a full hip mobility drill. So find your ASIS, this bony prominence in the front, and then find that bony one in the back. And you're going to try to open this one up towards the ceiling and push this one down. So you want those to actually be even. So you can actually make a letter C and try to reach yourself across. If you're big hip like me, it might be hard for you to get your hand across, but you can try. ASIS to PSIS. So open that up. You should feel a nice stretch in the front of the groin, right in front of the hip. Your hip is actually in your pocket, right? That's where it's located, not so much out here, right? So as you're moving forward, you want to maintain that pelvic neutral, and there should only be about 10 to 20 degrees of motion. You only have 30 degrees of hip extension in most people. So it's not this big global movement, but if you're anchoring towards here, it's actually quite subtle. So you can keep one hand on the front of the hip, pushing up, one hand pushing down. I don't want you tightening up your butt cheek either. You want to keep that neutral pelvis and just slide that forward in a dynamic stretch. And you should feel the hip flexors open up nicely. If you want to add to this and create some abdominal stability, then pull the ribs down and then reach the same side hand upwards. And that should give you a little extra pull. What you want to make sure you don't do is lose your cage against your bowl and start to go into hyperextension of the low back. Pull those ribs down and reach up as you're coming forward for a little extra pull. So that's making the hip flexor stretch a little bit more finite and anchoring it on the true hip flexors. Dr. Kathy Dooley, we'll see you next time.